You ever feel like you're just kind of winging it in life? Well, what if there was a blueprint, an ancient design for a life of real, deep meaning? Today, we're going to dive into some of the Bible's most challenging books, Leviticus and Numbers, to see if we can uncover a hidden architecture for a truly flourishing life. You know, we're so often told that a good life means maximum freedom, no rules, no limits. But what if that's all wrong? What if true freedom, true flourishing, doesn't come from having no structure, but from living within a brilliant design that's actually meant to help us thrive? At the very heart of this blueprint is this one powerful idea: holiness. Now, let's just forget all the stereotypes of being stuffy or impossibly perfect. See, in the original language, holy just means set apart. Think about a surgeon's scalpel. It's not just any knife, right? It's set apart for a specific life-saving purpose. That's the kind of holiness we're talking about. A life set apart for a special, designated purpose. So let's put on our architect hats for a minute and explore this design. First, we're going to look at the foundation, personal character. Then we'll move up to the social structures that hold the whole thing together. We'll even check out the daily rhythms that bring it all to life. And finally, we'll see how this ancient blueprint can still give us some serious guidance today. Okay, and this is the real game changer. These laws, they are not just some random list of do's and don'ts. No, they're a master plan, a blueprint for a community that would be so just, so compassionate, so full of life, that it would literally be a living, breathing advertisement for God's character to the entire world. Every great building has to start with a solid foundation. You just can't build a skyscraper on sand, right? Well, in this blueprint, the foundation isn't made of concrete and steel. It's personal integrity. It all starts with how we handle our most intimate relationships. And this is such a powerful way to reframe it. The whole goal of these moral laws isn't about restriction for restriction's sake. It's about protection. They're like the walls of a house, creating a safe, sacred space for families and relationships to really flourish, protected from all the chaos outside. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The source material draws a pretty bold line in the sand here. See, unlike dietary laws or other ceremonial rules, these moral standards are presented as timeless, universal principles. They are the absolute non-negotiable bedrock of the entire design, and they carry the exact same weight in both the Old and New Testaments. All right, so the foundation is poured. Now it's time to raise the walls. If personal purity is the foundation, then social justice is the very structure of our building. And this is where the blueprint just explodes from the private home right into the public square, demanding this radical kind of community-wide compassion. I mean, just look at this list. It's basically a roadmap for a compassionate society. In this blueprint, holiness wasn't some abstract spiritual state of mind. It was something you could see and touch and feel. It was the sound of a fair wage being paid on time. It was the sight of the elderly being treated with honor. It was the feeling of safety for the most vulnerable people in the community. And this is truly one of the most revolutionary social and economic ideas in all of human history. The Jubilee was literally a divinely mandated reset button for the entire economy. It was a built-in safeguard against the kind of generational poverty and crushing debt that can trap families for centuries. It was a declaration that people are always more important than profit. So what happens when you ignore the blueprint? Well, the sources point to a pretty devastating consequence: the Babylonian exile. For centuries, the people had ignored the command to let the land rest every 7 years. So what happened? God let the land take its rest for 70 years, while the people were in exile. It's a sobering reminder that there are always consequences when you ignore the design. Okay, let's talk about the rhythm, the heartbeat of this holy life. This is not about some rigid, joyless schedule. No way. This is about a divine choreography of celebration, remembrance, and, so importantly, rest. It's the music and the art that fills our building, making it feel like a home, not just a house. These festivals were like a living, breathing family album. They were designed to weave the story of God's faithfulness into the very fabric of daily life, constantly reminding them of where they came from, of their constant need for grace, and of God's unwavering provision for them, day in and day out. And get this, some of these festivals were kind of like a sneak peek into the future. Take Pentecost, for example. The 2 loaves of bread represented 2 totally distinct people groups, Jews and Gentiles, who would one day be brought together into one new family. It was literally a prophecy you could eat. How cool is that? And here's the beautiful thing. These festivals were also holidays. They were a gift. God hardwired rest and celebration right into the calendar. Because as the source material so wisely says, we're not just worker bees. We are human beings, and we are designed for a balanced life of work and rest and joy. You know, in any great project, some roles just come with more responsibility. And in this blueprint, the leaders, the priests, were held to an even higher standard. And why? Because as the source material puts it so beautifully, life influences life. Leadership is a stewardship, not a status symbol. The spiritual leaders had to walk the talk, and then some. Their personal lives had to be a living demonstration of the holiness they were calling everyone else to. Their influence was a sacred trust, and they had to guard their integrity fiercely to avoid becoming a stumbling block to the very people they were called to serve. So what does this 3,000-year-old blueprint have to do with our lives today? Well, we may not be following the specific ceremonial laws, but the underlying principles, the why behind the what, are as relevant as ever. In fact, they might be exactly what our chaotic world needs right now. This ancient blueprint is practically screaming at us about the importance of rest. It's not a suggestion, it's a command built into the design. So ask yourself, are you intentionally designing rhythms of rest and celebration into your life, or are you just drifting towards burnout? This blueprint was obsessed with justice for the poor and the marginalized. I mean, the whole Jubilee principle is a powerful challenge to any system that allows people to be trapped in debt and poverty. How does that radical idea of an economic reset challenge the way you think about your own money and your responsibility to your community? Ultimately, this ancient blueprint is an invitation. It's a call to stop just living life by default and to start being intentional architects of a life of meaning. By focusing on our foundation of integrity, the structure of our relationships, and the rhythm of our days, we can build something truly beautiful and lasting. Thanks for joining us.